Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. It is Friday. My name is Kevin Sully, joined by Gordon Mack. FloTrack podcast at gmail.com is our email address. You can also find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever else you listen to audio programming. You can find our website, flotrack.org/FloTrack podcast. We got a lot to get to, Gordon, today. It's a busy day in the running world.
It's great for the podcast, though, because we want days like this. There's things to talk about. We might go over an hour. Hey, we don't even know. We'll see, because there's so much going on in the news today, and an exciting weekend. Finally, I feel like track is officially beginning starting tomorrow or even tonight in a way, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's also a big high school meet going on, the VA Showcase. If people want to get a preview of that, you interviewed one of the meet directors, Nolan Jez, on Wednesday's show. People can listen to that. We're going to be talking about those collegiate meets that are coming up this weekend, but there's plenty of other topics to touch on. NCAA school canceled their indoor season. NCAA announced a new indoor schedule. Andrew Bumbalough retired. But let's start here let's go to the high school scene here, Gordon. We're turning into a high school podcast, a high school running podcast. Erriyon Knighton, 16 years old, is going pro. You might have seen him break out last summer when he ran 20.33 at AAUs. He signed a deal with Adidas. He'll no longer be competing for his high school team. So we've seen high school kids go pro before. We've seen high school kids go pro while they're still in high school. But this is on a different level here, Gordon. He's got 2 full years of outdoor left, and he's signed with Adidas. What were your thoughts?
So I was surprised. There's multiple emotions, right? Obviously, you're happy for the kid, happy for the family. Hey, if you can get paid to run, that is amazing. Not many people can do that. It's rarer to get paid to run than it is to get paid to do football or basketball or whatever, right? So big ups. But I keep on thinking about it, like, what is the value of his talent, right? And sometimes it's hard for me to kind of conceptualize how good how good a certain sprint time is for a young kid. So he runs 20.33. That's his best mark that he has to his name. Excuse me. To his name. 20.33. And we're like, oh, that's good. So I was like, all right, well, what is that in distance? Because sometimes some people know distance better than sprints. So his 20.33, if it was run in 2019, it would have been the 16th fastest time in the U.S. So he would have been ranked 16th in the U.S. So the 16th fastest 1,500-meter time in the U.S. was 3:37. The 16th fastest 5K time was 13:31. So he has 2 years left. How would we react if a high school sophomore went to the track meet and ran 13:31?
We'd lose our minds. We would lose our minds. If they ran 3:37 in the mile, we'd lose our mind. Or the 1,500. We saw that. I mean, Webb ran 3:53 for the mile, which is pretty close to 3:37, and that was when he was a senior in 2001. So we've already seen that story before. Yes, you're right. I mean, when you put it into 5,000 meter terms, it just gives you an idea of how good he is at such a young age.
But so that is good. But then you have to compare how far away he is from what the third best time is, right? Like, if you want to be making an Olympic team, you need to be a 19.8 guy, 19.9 probably, maybe 19.9 low, 19.90, right? 20.33 is pretty far from that, right? So there's also that factor. Do you think it was a good decision? I'm asking you first, and then I'll tell you if I thought it was a good decision.
With all these, it's hard to say because you don't know the terms of the contract. You don't know the other options that were available to him. But I default to what you said before. If you can get paid to run, there's so few people that are paid to run. If you can get paid to run, I think you should take the deal. I think you should take the deal. You're right. He's at 20.33. And I think part of the appeal, if you've done some research on this kid, he's only run track for 3 years. So this isn't the situation where he's this phenom that started at age 6 and he's always been setting age group records. He's still relatively new. He's still learning the sport. So I think that's part of the draw too, is 20.33 is the floor, and he's only going to go up from there. When he ran that time, according to the Track and Field News Report, he hadn't raced in 6 months, really, like in the lead up to his summer season, right? He had been off because of the pandemic, and then he comes out and he drops this amazing time. So how do you get from 20.3 to what you're saying, 20.0 or 19.9 or 19.8 to where you make a team? Is it staying in high school 2 more years, competing with your club team? Is it going the NCAA route? Like, everybody has a different situation, but track ultimately is an individual sport. So there's a perfectly good case to be made if he's surrounded by a good coach and good training partners that he can progress at the exact same level or better than he could with high school, with a different club, or going into the collegiate season. Track is so weird because it's always this mix and mash of who your training partners are, who your coach is, to create this perfect formula. So what is he giving up to do this? It could be something inferior to what he's going to have, which he could have a better coach or a better system or a better setup this way. One thing I know for sure, 20.3, he's not going to get much competition running in high school races for the next 2 years. That is for certain, right? So you could say, well, he's doing good because now he's going to have more flexibility to compete in meets he wants. If he was a high school senior, it might be a little bit different, because then you'd say, well, go to college, you could run in the SEC, you could find competition every week that's going to run that fast. But then you'd weight it against, okay, well, does he want to be running, 4 events at a meet? Does he want to be competing that frequently? So I'm always going to default to, if you're going to get compensated for your skill or talent, go ahead and do it. But it's impossible to say. Adidas seems to sign every high school kid that comes out, but we have no idea how long the contracts are. Is it a 10-year deal like we've heard that they signed other high schoolers coming out? Is it a 5-year deal? It's just so hard to tell when we don't know what the offer is.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think we always remember the high schoolers that pan out, like a Noah Lyles, right? And I think or like a Drew Hunter and stuff like that, but like
Allison Felix.
But I think we're always thinking of the exception to the rule. And my question is, how beneficial is having a year to a year and a half of collegiate type coaching? Like, how valuable would it be for him to be coached by Mike Holloway for a year and a half, or by Carl Lewis for a year and a half, or by any other any other top tier type sprint coach,
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech guys or Texas, right? And
we don't know.
We don't know. I mean, it's just, again, I always side with, you're getting paid, take it. But there is a part of me that thinks, like, is he giving up an opportunity to be even better? Like, maybe, okay, so there's I feel like there's 3 different timelines here. We're doing Avengers style, 3 different timelines. There's a timeline where, no, I'll say there's 4 different timelines.
Oh, another timeline?
Yeah, there's a timeline
Avengers Plus.
where, yeah, 4. There might be actually more. First timeline is,
okay,
he goes pro, he continues to succeed, and he has an incredible career. He has like a Noah Lyles type career. Like, he progresses well, and he's just like super mature for his age. He's able to stay focused in high school and getting that paycheck and finding the right training partners, and everything is perfect. And he just is like the next big thing in the 2020s. That's timeline number 1. Second timeline is, it doesn't work. And he gets a little bit better, but he kind of just doesn't, he doesn't have the structure as much around him as he would have had if he went to college, and the training partners aren't as good. The club coaches he trusts don't really guide him the right way, and he kind of just fizzles out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the two other timelines where he doesn't go pro and he goes the college route. And one of them, he has a successful career that involves some national titles, but also going on to the pro scene and having a Noah Lyles type career. And then he also has a timeline where he does well in college, has a couple national titles, tries to go pro, but it doesn't work. He doesn't.
Yeah.
In three of those scenarios, he's getting paid, right? The first two, he's getting paid because, success or failure, he's still getting paid. The other two, he's only getting paid in one of them, which would be the success one. So he took the option where whether he wins or loses, he's getting paid, versus the option of only winning gets you paid. Does that make sense? Do you track this right now?
Yeah, I got a spreadsheet out on my computer right now. I'm just connecting all the lines together. I think, well, first of all, Lyles, right? People are comparing him to Lyles because of the Adidas connection and because he ran a fast 200. Lyles went pro after high school. Knighton is going pro midway through his high school career. So, it's totally different. Lyles was getting fourth in the Olympic trials when he came out. He was a proven best runner in the United States runner, right? He was at the elite level in 2016. So it made a ton of sense for him to go pro. Ran 2009 that year in Eugene and set the U20 record. So this is different, right? This is a whole other level up. But my question to you is this. Sometimes athletes, because of a variety of circumstances, they're going to hit their peak at 20 or 21. Their best moments are going to come when they're 20 or 21. And there's not a lot you can do to change it. So if that's the case, would you rather have been getting paid, or would you rather have not been getting paid? Because a lot of times with these young athletes, we do this revisionist history afterwards and we say, oh, they shouldn't have gone pro. They should have done this differently or that differently. But then you could run the alternate scenario where they don't go pro. They go to college and the exact same thing happens to them. And then their senior year, they're running 20.2. They didn't see the improvement that they thought they were going to see, or 20.1. And they're just one of many. And we see that on the distance side and on the sprint side as well, too. So the argument is, if someone's willing to pay you now, take the money now, because you have no idea what you're going to be. You have no idea if your body is going to hold up for 10, 15 years.
What do you think?
But we make that assumption. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. What do you think is the one thing, there's lots of positives, right? You're getting money. And again, it's super rare. What's like the biggest negative of what he's doing? Or not even biggest, but like the main negative?
The pressure that comes with it, because now he already was known. You run 20.33 and you run it the way he did. You've all seen the YouTube clip. It's on FloTrack's YouTube if you want to check it out. Like, he runs that 20.33 in a way that's, reminds people of Lyles and Bolt just a little bit, just the tenacity coming off of the curve. So he was already known, but this just puts a big arrow right next to his name. Anytime he enters a meet, he's going to be known for it. That to me is the main drawback, because look, you can do what Allison Felix did, which is go to the shoe sponsor and say, okay, I'll sign with you, but you're going to pay my college. Okay, boom. You're going to set me up in this great training group. Like, you can make those demands. So he's getting all of the benefits that he would get if he was a Division I athlete. The only difference is he's racing in different meets and he's able to get paid for it. What do you think is the biggest drawback?
You're risking your maturity development.
But are you? I mean, I think that depends on the coach, right?
It depends on the coach.
Oh, you mean like because you're gonna have money at a young age,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean that just depends
Yeah,
on the
and it's
people
just
around
like,
you, right? Yeah,
yeah, I mean, you can it can work, right? But I think it takes discipline to be like a high school prodigy getting paid. I feel like it takes
yeah.
discipline. And not everyone has it. Some people have it, and if you combine it with your talent, you can have a great career. But like there is going to be more temptations for him than he would have had just as like a, you know, a, you know, going a different path, right? So,
Well, yeah.
again,
Also,
but like again,
there's not as many templates to what he's doing because he's doing it within high school. If it was okay, high school's done. Now instead of going to college, I'm going to go to pro. That has been done successfully numerous times before. This path is less charted, so I think there's fewer people who can say, "Hey, I've been in your shoes. This is how you should set up your season. This is how you should approach your life off the track, and all that stuff." Like we don't see this often. We're seeing it more than we have in the past, but I don't think anybody's cracked the code on how to do it correctly yet.
yeah. In the end, super happy for the kid. Like we said,
Yeah.
if you can get paid to go running, you take it. Like no matter how many talking heads on a random podcast can be like, well, what about this one thing on this? Who cares? They're not writing you the
Well,
checks, so you accept the money.
yeah, and people put even now, even still, people put NCAA competition and the system of NCAA on a pedestal. And they say, well, that's the way to do it. That's the way you go through. It produces all these great athletes, which it does, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to produce the best version of Erriyon Knighton. It's going to produce somebody that's great. You know, it's gonna spit out every year. All these people are going to go on and win Olympic and World Championship medals, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the best fit for each individual person. So, yeah, wish him luck. I mean, I'm trying to think of, Mary Kane was, making world championship finals when she was in high school. And I remember at the time thinking, well, if she goes to college, who's she going to run against? Right? She was already running 405 and sub 2 in the 800, right? And she wasn't even there yet. So I just think the key to development is continuing to race against people who are able to push you. So if he's able to do that more frequently, then I think that's a good thing. But ultimately, yeah, it's going to depend on the coach, the club, the training partners around him to make sure it works. But I mean, it's one of those times when you wish you knew more about the finances of track and field, right? Because that
Yeah,
would help you understand a little bit here. Because
because what if it's just like free gear? You're like, wait, dude,
yeah,
you should have done that.
no, do not do that. No, 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 no. But wasn't it? I mean, who did they say had a 10-year? Is it Drew Hunter that had a 10-year deal, or one of the
Yeah,
deals got reported? Right. It was a big deal when Webb went pro from Michigan because the details of his contract came out, and it was $250,000 a year is what it was reported as, and that was a big deal. And at the time, that seemed like a ton of money. I'm guessing now the deals are much bigger. But if you're able to have
maybe
a
not.
10-year, yeah, maybe, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, true. But a 10-year contract that you sign when you're 16 and takes you to 26, that's good. You can't get many employers to guarantee that you're going to get a paycheck for 10 straight years. Again, I'm speculating here. I don't know that's what it is, but we've heard contracts of those length in the past. It's like the Albert Pujols deal, right? Didn't he
How do
sign
you
some
think
absurdly long contract?
a pro athlete feels who got cut and then they see a 16-year-old get paid?
That's the game. They're
Yeah,
paying for potential.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, because
So
you're
it probably
you're
stings a bit. It's like, oh, you have enough for him, but not for me. Yeah,
all these are bets on the future. You're betting that it's the next
yeah.
Lyles or it's the next Felix. That's what you're doing. And some of them are going to pan out. And Adidas especially is heavily invested in this because that seems to be their MO is get the phenoms and then hopefully one of them pans out.
And then remember when Adidas gave money to like 148 high school runners, like those high school boy 800-meter
Yeah,
runners.
right. That's
Who are
what I'm
they?
saying.
Yeah, I was like, what are they doing?
Hoey's.
They're like the Hoes. Yeah, they're definitely fishing there. But maybe this is the big tuna they found. So they got to him before.
Yeah.
Who? What college coach was like, God damn it? Do you think it was Mike Holloway in Florida? He's like,
Well,
first you take the Lyles away from me. Now you're gonna take Knighton. I was about to go have dinner with his family next quarter.
yeah, he's in Florida. I mean, they have no shortage of sprint talent in Florida. So, I mean, everybody wanted him, obviously. I think when you run 20.33 at the end of your sophomore year, I think most college coaches assume you're not going to be available by the time you get to you get to college, right? Like that's an absurdly fast time, 20.33 to run as a sophomore.
True. Very
I
true.
mean, that's just yeah. Any event. All right, so let's move on. Other topics here. Andrew Bumbalough retired. So we got people entering the sport and people leaving the sport here. So let's do these back to back. Bowerman Track Club runner made the 2011 World Championship team, was fourth in the trials. Gordon in 2012 in the 5K. Had some injuries and later moved to the marathon. Ran the 210s, finished fifth in Boston in that rainy, wet, and horribly cold year. And then this past year DNF'd at the trials. But one of the stalwarts of the Bowerman group. So we're seeing some turnover there with a few people moving on and some retirements as well too.
When was Bumby's last like good race? What year?
Chicago Marathon, I believe 2018?
So
Are
3
you talking about
years.
on the track? Are you talking about the track or roads?
Roads, because he made a transition to the roads. So
Yeah, so 2019 Chicago, 210.56. And
but
then
is that
2020 just
210.50? I mean, are we supposed
and then
like when was
2018.
that? 210.56 is not the same thing as him making the world team in 2011.
Well, yeah, he was better in the 5,000 than he was
Yeah.
in the marathon. I don't think no one is arguing that. He just had this middle point in his career when he was transitioning between the two, and he wasn't racing that much. He was getting hurt, but he had a good run. He had a good run. I mean, he's second at USA's in 2014 in the 5,000. In 2013, he was fifth. That was the year when they jogged, I think, a 5:10 mile for the first mile, one of the more bizarre races. As I
Oh,
mentioned,
I remember that.
2012, he was, yeah, 2012, he was fourth. And then 2011, he was fourth, but made it onto the team and ended up running in Daegu. So he had a stretch there where he was consistently a top 5 guy in
On
the
the
US
track.
in the 5,000. Yeah. I mean, that was his jam there. I mean, ran 13:12. I guess he ran 13:12 in the era that like 13:12 was
Good enough.
a top tier time. Whereas I think now we're
Yeah.
entering it where it seems that number's moved down to, what would you say, 13:05?
Yeah. 13:05.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not even 13:09. I would say 13:05. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if someone runs 13:10 at Peyton, well, you would have lost your voice in 2015 screaming about it probably on the call. Whereas now you'd be like, yeah, 13:10.
Yeah.
Nice rest
It's like,
buster. Nice rest buster.
well, yeah, Rust Buster. Yeah, ready to go.
Yeah.
Great. That's
What do you
good
think
though for
about
the sport
Bowerman?
that we're getting better.
Yeah. What do you think about Bowerman as a whole here? Grace moved on, Ryan Hill with Hoka, and then Bumbalough retired. They got some cap space, or they had to move some people?
I mean, I don't know if I think they're still over the cap, right? They were growing so big. Even when they lose these 3 bodies, they still are very full with their talent. So I think there might need another round of cuts, maybe in 2021 or 2022, to try to get back to like a more stable group. But it's a embarrassment of riches, right? They can lose these 3 people and still be just as powerful as they were a year ago. So, but yeah, Bumby, I remember, I remember, I met I remember that 2013 race, like you said, the jog race where he
Mhm.
ran well, and it's a bummer that his transition didn't work as quickly or as well as it could have happened. Not every 5K runner is built to run 26 miles at a all-time fast
Yeah,
pace.
most aren't,
So
right?
yeah, most are. I'm not for sure. Are you? No, I don't think so. So hey, you can join the party, right? But
No, but like Tegan Camp, like there's this whole group of guys who did the traditional progression of I'm a really good 5K guy.
Smolinski, yeah,
Uh, yeah. I don't have my kick anymore. Like let's move to the marathon, and it's tough. Like the ones where it worked for Meb and it worked for Rupp, but and Ritz, but most times it's really tough to be good at both at that part of your
yeah.
career.
Do you think going that progression of being like a miler in high school, and then you move up to the 5K in college, and then you're a 5K, 10K guy as a pro, and then all of a sudden you're now a half marathon, and like just as you age, you go farther in distance. Do you think that's a better plan than just being like, I'm doing a marathon, like jump into the marathon right away and skipping the 5 years of flirting with the track?
Mm-hmm. So basically, the modified Ryan Hall method. I mean, he's good on the track for the
Yeah.
5,000, but he went to the marathon earlier. Yeah, 100%, because that's what other countries are doing now. Kenya and Ethiopia has the depth to where, okay, you run 13:05 on the track. It's like who are you? What event are you trying to run? So you might as well you get scared off to the marathon probably a lot quicker, and the money that's good there makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I think we're going to see more and more people start to make marathon really good like NCAA runners. I think we're going to see more of them make marathon debuts when they're 23, 24, as opposed
Is the
to
reason
27, 28.
is it because of the aura of like track? Is it because of contracts? Because if you really think about it, the place to make the most money is like road
Mm-hmm.
races because they have the best prize purses than any track meet's ever going to have,
Yeah.
and more of them, right? So,
Yeah.
what's the main reason that these talented NCAA All Americans and NCAA champions are just like constantly, no, I'm going to do track for 2 to 3 years? Like, is
Oh,
it
more than 2 or 3
like the
years.
money's on the roads?
Yeah.
I don't
So
understand.
you're basically saying, okay, you take someone like Tyler Day, who has some really, really good PRs, and you're saying, why don't they go to the marathon right now? Basically, why spend the time trying to make US teams in the 5 of the 10?
Yeah,
I think part of it is physiological development because the marathon is a scary endeavor. So you want to be super prepared for it. I think that's part of it. And the other part is maybe routine. You get used to running a track season and racing
track
frequently,
workouts.
and it
Yeah.
and it's a little scary to say, okay, now I'm going to go to only racing a couple times a year. So a combination of those two. But I think people, maybe not Day necessarily, I don't know, but I think people like Day, people in Day's shoes. I think in the next 10, 15 years, we're going to see more of them try that. I probably said that 10 years ago and was wrong. I probably was thinking, hey, Chris Derrick, when he's 24, that guy's going to go all in on the marathon. And I was wrong. Or Bumbalough, that guy's going to go all in the marathon. So I'll just repeat it again, and then I'll say it again in 10 more years. But I think it makes sense for certain athletes.
Like, what if like Cheserek right out of college was like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, I'm running the marathon.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have, especially if you're good, especially if you're experienced in the 10,000, right? If you
Yeah.
come at it from the, or you're really strong in cross country, if you're
Cross
coming at it,
country. Yeah.
yeah, and you're already logging a ton of miles,
Like Pat
and you're
Tiernan.
running it,
Go run the
yeah,
marathon.
because the your youth, yeah, you don't have the miles on your legs, but on the flip side of that, you also don't have too many miles on your legs because the alternative is now I'm a 31-year-old journeyman who's been competing on the track for years and years. Let me try my hand at the marathon. You're like, oh, okay, this is tough. But when you're younger, you can recover quicker. Perhaps there's a better fit there. It certainly is working in other countries.
Do you think if the NCAA added a half marathon event, kind of like the JUCO system has a half marathon championship? Do you think if we had a half marathon NCAA championship, that would get these kids ready to go where when they're 22 and they have like a NCAA like title experience, they're more prepared to be like, yeah, age 23, I'm a marathoner.
Well, and it would help sponsors and coaches ID the people who have talent for the longer stuff. Because right now, what are you going off of? You're going off their 10K PB and what they put on Strava probably on their long runs.
Yeah.
That's it. But
And
it's all
cross-country race.
anecdotal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all anecdotal. Someone like CJ Albertson, right, who was top 10 at the trials, but when he ran at Arizona State was just another guy. I mean, he was a solid runner, good runner, but I don't think anybody would have been like, "Yep, you are going to be you have potential to be a good marathoner." You know, they probably would have had a couple other guys on the team that they would have said, you know, who had better PRs than him. So, yeah, if you had a real race at half marathon, I think you'd identify him a lot quicker.
You know what I just thought? Genius idea.
Uh-oh.
NCAA committee, if you're listening, hey, we're getting ready for a wild indoor season where we're going to have indoor championships and then on a Monday, the cross country championships. Next, let's just replace that cross country. Let's keep our cross country championships in the fall, but let's replace that Monday championship with the half marathon. Why don't we do that? So then, indoor season, you have people training for the half marathon for the Monday, and then you have the people training for the indoor season. Hey, and you could even, if you wanted to, you can make it count as points towards the indoor team title, because then coaches would be like, "Ooh, okay, let's rack up some points."
If I was in charge of USATF or some sort of governing body that had authority, I would say anybody who made the 10,000 meter final or who was, let's say, top 50 in cross country, hell, top 100, like graduating seniors, I would host a half marathon after outdoor, just as a talent search, basically, just to see who was good and who had it in them, like to ID them right away, because there might be people there who are ready to go in half marathon.
So yeah. Are we talking about a road racing combine? Is that what we're getting right here? We're getting some road racing combine. You have them
instead of the 40, we do the 40 kilometer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. And then the coaches are watching and they're seeing what type of shoes they're wearing to kind of like recalibrate what their true ability is.
But honestly, that's when you say it like that, it's kind of funny, but it's also, what information are you going? It's all speculation, right? You could send, well, here's what they ran on their long run and stuff, but it's, if the longest distance you run is 10,000 and you're trying to forecast how good they'll be at a marathon, something that's more than 4 times the distance, you're requiring a lot of guesswork there. So I don't know. Even the people who they've done extensive data, like when Nike did Breaking 2 and they were doing all this extensive data analysis on who would be the 3 best guys to do it, they obviously made some assumptions that ended up being incorrect. Not on Kipchoge, they were 100% right on him, but on the other 2, they made some assumptions. So the lab and the data and the science told them one thing, and then for some reason it went in another direction. So unless you actually have a mark out there, it's hard to know for sure who's going to be good.
Yeah, man, I like this idea. Let's do a half marathon NCAA championship the Monday after indoors, and a marathon combine for all the NCAA cross country qualifiers. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Who wants to write the check to make it happen?
So Nike's next thing, instead of doing a Breaking 2, they should go back to America's Next Top Distance Runner. That's what they should do.
Dude, I love it. Make it a reality show. Follow them around. They can try different
America's
shoes.
Next Top Marathoner.
Yeah. That'll be great.
It starts with a test. That's the pilot is like the test race, and then from there, they get put in the house, the altitude house.
And the rows will be the 4%, right? And then you get the rows. You get the Nike 4%. Be perfect.
Oh man, things stop getting polite and they start getting lactic. That's what's going to happen. Okay. Do you want to talk about the NCAA's indoor schedule briefly for the championships?
There was news about how NCAA is going to a 3-day schedule instead of 2-day schedule. And we're like, what is that going to mean? Are they going to change it up? Like, could someone easily more triple now because it's spread out?
Mm-hmm.
Comes out, and it basically has no impact on an athlete because what they did was they put all the multis and the weight throw on Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday, the schedule is exactly the same, except it's split by gender. So afternoon session men, evening session women, and same thing on Saturday. So it doesn't really affect any. I think that's a good call because I think they want to kind of keep it. They didn't want to make it too crazy where all of a sudden they gave a certain team who had a certain type of athlete an incredible advantage because they could triple easily or something like that. They kept this order of the events the same, and it just split by gender to keep the bodies in the building half, which makes sense. I mean, it's pretty easy to split. I mean, we've been doing mixed, like 2 genders at the same time for all this time. And you can easily just like, hey, well, if we just cut it in half by just splitting the genders. And now you can fit more people in a longer time span. So makes sense. So no big craziness.
Right. It shouldn't have any impact on the competitive balance of the meet, right? I mean, the thing that's going to affect the competitive balance is 2 days later is cross country. That's what's going to impact.
Yes, and I've been talking to some coaches. I'm still trying to get an idea of what coaches are planning on doing. Like by coaches, I mean coaches who coach distance athletes. You know, they all want cross country. I don't think there's any coach that isn't going to attempt cross country. The question is, how much indoor do they give? Because if you're like, even like a team like NAU, right? You want to win the cross country team title. You want to win the cross country team title. And in order to win the cross country team title, you need to run Luis Grijalva as your low stick, right? But if you have Luis Grijalva, he is literally the best 3K runner in the country. So it would be extremely weird to not let the best 3K runner in the country run the 3K national championships, right? But there's that. But that is then a factor of how he performs in the 10K, you know? So the strategy of what coaches decide to do they do 5K cross-country double? Do they do DMR cross-country double? Do they do mile cross-country double? Or 3K cross-country? Or try to triple somewhere, you know? So the question is, like, I think the people we kind of want to know most is what does Cooper Tier on the men's side, Cooper Tier, Yair Nuguse, Luis Grijalva, Wesley Kiptoo, and Connor Mance. What do those 5 do? Because that's probably the group that we think are all going to be battling for an NCAA title in cross country outside Yair Nuguse. But does Nuguse like try to like win the mile? We don't even know. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, Notre Dame's got that DMR thing going too. So they have a team title indoors and a team finish in cross country. They prioritize team there, but there's 2 opportunities for team that weekend. I saw that UTEP has canceled their indoor season entirely, which frankly, when I read this release, Gordon, that you put on the rundown, I'm surprised more teams haven't announced this, to be honest.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Like, this indoor season's happening, right? We have like 14 meets going on this upcoming weekend, and then I just filled out the schedule. There's a lot of indoor track meets, but the catch is they're all hosted by Power 5 schools, and they all are basically going to let Power 5 schools in. UTEP, not Power 5, they have nowhere to run. They're not able. They normally go to Texas Tech. They can't go to Texas Tech because they're not allowed in. New Mexico, they would go to New Mexico. New Mexico meets might not happen. Can't get in. Where are they going to go? Where is UTEP going to run indoor track? They literally, it's the other schools are basically I think there's a lot of schools that just are going to have to self-cancel because no one's going to let them run. And that's a bummer. Like the Conference USA, I think is going to have an indoor championship, but like there's going to be a lot of schools where the only meet they're going to have is their conferences in end of February. So it's a bummer. UTEP, I think, probably saw the writing on the wall. They thought like, hey, we don't have anyone that's going to win NCAA indoors anyway. We can just get ready for outdoors. But it is a bummer, and I think we're going to see more of this, of these non-Power 5 schools just being banned by the Power 5, so they can't run.
There's a key sentence. The last sentence here says, the Miners are slated to begin the outdoor campaign on March 19th at the Willie Williams Classic in Tucson, Arizona. So they only have to wait 2 months to run. That's the other part of this too, is outdoor is right around the corner. So do you want to go through all this work and spend all this money traveling and try to figure out all the different protocols? You're right. If you're not going to contend for a title, or just wait 2 months and run outdoors when there's a lot more opportunities, a lot more meets. So makes sense.
Yeah.
What should we be watching for this weekend?
So I went through all of the start lists to kind of get us ready to go for basically the kickoff of the NCAA weekend. There's a bunch of meets. Virginia Tech, we'll see Ja'Cory Patterson, who famously always runs a really fast 300. Is he the NCAA record holder?
I think he is he?
Is it? I'll double check. Pardon my clicks as I try to all-time indoor collegiate man. Is he? I thought he was second, but maybe he broke it.
While you look that up,
yeah,
I'm gonna go right back and grab a tissue because my allergies are killing me. Keep going.
So he went last year, on this exact weekend last year. He ran 32:28, which broke Torrin Lawrence's collegiate record by 0.04. So 32:28. So Ja'Cory Patterson back on the 300, making his season debut. Can he run even faster? I mean, if he's been training well, maybe we could see a 31:99, which would be pretty cool. I don't know. But seeing the NCAA record holder run the off event again to see how fast he can go will be interesting. Race going down to Virginia Tech. But there's a bunch of meets like this, right? So Penn State's having a meet. Danae Rivers is going to be running the 600 and the 1K. The Corky Classic, Texas Tech meet. We're going to have the Texas people going down, Kennedy Flannel in the 60, Jonathan Jones in the 200. And then we have some like kind of fun names that we kind of know. I mean, I'm looking forward to Clemson Invite, Matt Bowling's show. He's going to run the 60. On the Texas A&M side, at the Ted Nelson Invite, we're going to see the debut of their 2-star freshman 800-meter runners, Brandon Miller and Athing Mo. Really excited to see what Athing Mo does in the 800. Same with Brandon Miller. He kind of had a high peak kind of mid-high school and then kind of fell off at the end, mainly due to the pandemic. And I think got injured his junior year. So we haven't seen what a true fast Brandon Miller can be. But yeah, I'm really excited for that Texas A&M 800 debuts from Mo and Miller. What about you?
Yeah, they had that's the one I had circled too. They had such an incredible recruiting class, and they're so deep and they have such tradition in the 800. I'm excited about that. Obviously, man, there's some big names at the McCravey Green Invitational too. Alexis Holmes, Randolph Ross, Dwight St. Hilaire, who's kind of under the and St. Hilaire's under the radar, but as a freshman, he was really good, and then got hurt. But there's some big names there as well too.
Hey,
so yes, this is a good weekend. This will be a good weekend.
Circle that McCravey Green Invite in Kentucky. Abby Steiner. This is the Abby Steiner show. She's making the Olympic team in the 200. I'm saying it right now on January 15th. Clip this. Abby Steiner, 2021 Olympic qualifier. Okay. She's going to be, and she's going to sign a big pro contract the weekend of the trials, and she'll debut probably her Adidas kit. That's what I'll go with. She'll debut her Adidas kit on the starting line of the 200-meter final. That's my prediction.
We already did bold predictions a couple weeks ago, so
I know. Well, I'm
I'll
adding
see if
another one.
I can submit that one. Like, I was thinking of another. You know which one I was thinking of?
What?
I was thinking of this. So, what's the most in all of United States track and field? What's the most predictable 1, 2, 3? Which event would you say?
Like order or just picking the top three?
Picking the top 3. What's the top 3 right now that you would bet the most money happens in Eugene at the trials? There's only one correct answer here. So you need to make sure you get this right. Otherwise, this won't work.
I'm trying to think who has. I know a lot of 1-2s. There's only one correct answer for 1, 2,
Yeah.
3. I mean,
There's an event where there's 3 people who are on an entirely different level than everybody else.
damn it.
Audio podcast.
Okay.
We need you to talk
Is
here.
it the men's too? No. Out.
No, it's not the men's too. It's a women's event. There, I'll give you a hint.
It's not the 400 hurdles.
No, it's not the 400 hurdles because that third spot's open.
Yeah.
Come on, this is easy, Gordon.
is-
If you can't do this, we might have to get Lincoln back on. We might have to really give Lincoln a call here and see if he knows the answer to this.
It's not the 800. I still think the
You're
third
right,
spot
it's
in the
not.
800 is open.
It's not the 800. You're right, 100%. You're right. It's not the 800.
Okay, so it's not the 200 because no one knows. It's not the 100.
This is
It's
taking
not
way
the
longer than I thought
400.
it was.
It's not the 400 because there's like 6 women. It's not the 8. It's not the 15. It's not the 5K. It's not the 10K. It's not the hurdles. It's because there's. I don't know.
Oh, you're so close.
What is
Oh,
it?
man, you went right over it. You drove right past the exit. Gordon, you sped right past it. You didn't even say the event out loud.
Oh, the steeple. So, oh my God. Okay, yeah. Steeple.
Yeah. It's so predictable.
That's
So
the
I
last
feel,
thing I could think of.
yeah, you literally didn't say, like, it's not the hurdles. It's not the 10K. It's not the 1500. And there's definitely no event between the 1500 and the 5K that I'm missing.
Steeple.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It's so predictable that I feel like if you said one of those 3 doesn't make the team, it would 100% be an incredibly bold prediction. But eventually that's going to have to get broken up. Right?
Yeah.
Eventually?
Well, the only time it gets broken up is due to injuries, like Colin Quigley.
And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the bold prediction would be they're not the first 3 across the line in Eugene.
Ooh.
Right? So Quigley's made it every year since 15. Quigley has made it, right? Coburn streak obviously goes on since the beginning of time, pretty much. How Frericks goes back how far?
I don't know, but
A long time,
far.
right? Yeah. So did she make it in? Let's see. So 15, she didn't make it. 15, she was 7th. So starting in 16, she made it. So they've been the team, aside from injury, they've been the team that gets 1, 2, 3, 16, 17, and 19. Right? The last 3 years, it's been the exact same group that's gone to World Championships or Olympics or qualified. So I don't know. I just thought that it just popped in my head randomly. Like, what if it wasn't that 3?
What does that have to do with Abby Steiner?
You were doing another bold prediction. You were doing another bold
Okay.
prediction, and I was like, "This is another bold prediction." Okay, last thing before we go,
Okay.
it's on the ticker at the bottom. We don't know a ton about it, so I didn't want to go too much into it because Brianna McNeal hasn't made a statement, but she's been provisionally suspended due to a charge from the AIU with tampering with part of the doping control process. Now that can mean a lot of different things too. That's a relative. There was a statement that came out. Okay.
Yeah,
Can you read the statement then?
From her agency. In response to the notice of charge levied by the Athletics Integrity Unit regarding Brianna McNeal, ICM Stellar Athletics would like to clarify that Brianna has not tested positive for any substance banned in the sport of track and field. Brianna will request a hearing where she fully expects to be exonerated and continue her championship career.
Okay.
So, why don't you kind of enlighten people what the charge is against her?
So the charge, and we need to know more information about it because it's described as tampering with part of the doping control process, which can mean a lot of different things. People hear that and they think, oh, it means that you like manipulated a drug sample, but it can mean any part of it, right? Per my understanding. So we need to know more information about that. This obviously gets even more complicated because she's already had a 1-year suspension for whereabouts failures after 2016. She missed an entire year because she had 3 missed tests. The suspension, though, it could have been 2 years, like we saw in the Christian Coleman case, but it was knocked down to 1 year because they did not that she was using performance-enhancing drugs. She gave a full accounting of where she was and where the mess-ups were. One of them was she was at the White House when she was supposed, and she didn't update her whereabouts. The other one was she went to Florida to participate in a day in her honor. It was like Brianna Rollins' day. And the third one, I think she was traveling to a meet. So she had moved on from that. Obviously, she was back. She made the world championship last year and competed. So this is going to be, just the charge itself can bring about serious punishment, but that in combination with a previous violation could sit her out for a while. So TBD on it. We don't know. If we've learned anything with these sort of cases, especially in 2020, is you kind of want to wait before you make any sort of judgment on what could happen next or what will happen next.
Yeah, hopefully it gets resolved and the justice is served on either way. But yeah, man, I'm sick of AIU and all these crazy different things happening. I'm kind of become numb to them all, to be honest. I know I shouldn't be because it's an important part of sport, but one after another, I'm always like, what? Okay. And it's always like, I wish I missed the old school tested positive for steroids. I miss those because then it's like, all right, we know what you
It's
did.
clear. Yeah.
But now it's like all these different violations, whereabouts, and all that stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I do have a question though. I want to leave. If Elon, our producer, if I play a video on my computer, will you hear the audio?
I don't think so. No.
If I send you a Twitter video, will you be able to play it really quick?
Yeah, send me the link.
I'll send you the link.
Man, you're making Alon work more and work overtime here too.
I sent it to the chat in our vMix call. So
I
there's a
know where
viral
you're going
video
with
that
this. I think I know
there's
where
a
you're going.
viral video. Elon, do you get it?
Yeah, one sec.
Okay, so I'll just preface. There's a viral video that went down last night. Twitter user Leah Ann Sharik tweeted it. It's a clip from a popular television game show that involved a question about track and field. And while I don't blame them for not knowing the answer or not knowing who the athlete was, even though we all know who the athlete is, I don't blame them for not knowing the athlete. I blame them for not knowing just spatial distance math. So it's an 18-second clip. Once we got it, we'll play it and we'll leave with that. But here it is. This is, you can see it on the screen. This is from Jeopardy. Rest in peace, Alex Trebek. Here we go.
In the mile, and this metric track distance that's just a bit shorter. Brett,
What is the 10,000 meters?
no. Lucy,
What is the 10 meter?
Liz,
What is 500 meters?
no. We were looking for 1,500 meters.
So you can see, if you couldn't hear the beginning of the question, Hikam El Jaruz they're basically, what is just under a mile? That's the metric distance of the mile. The answer was 1,500 meters, but the first answer they gave was 10K. Amen. If my 10K record now is 440, I'm good. I'm a very good 10K runner. So
what's the worst answer of those three?
So it's a tie between 10K and 10 meters. Because
I think 10 meters is a lot worse.
10 meters? Yeah.
Because, listen, not everybody's going to know what a meter is, right? But people know, they probably would associate it with a yard. So 10 yards, this person thinks 10 yards is just short of a mile. I could see 10,000 because they're like, all right, like you can't see, you can see 10 yards, 10 yards on a football field or 20 yards on a football field. And they have some association of like, oh, I ran a 10-minute mile one time in middle school, but it didn't take you 10 minutes to run 10 meters. So I feel like that one's the worst by far.
I think this is what it was. I think the first guy goes in quick and he's just trying to think of a distance, 10K, because he probably thinks of road distances, 10K. And I think the lady who then buzzed in second, the reason why she said 10 meters is because she probably thought, he had the right answer. He just didn't know how to say it correctly. He said 10K. He should have said K isn't a distance. He should have said meters because that's a distance. So she said, oh, it's 10 meters. Like she probably was thinking she was saying 10,000 meters.
I think that makes it even worse. I like the third person who's just like, I don't know, 500 meters? But no, I've watched this probably 60 times now, and I have another theory. Your theory is a good theory, but I have another theory. The way the question is written, where they say just a tad bit shorter, maybe they thought that was like sarcasm in the clue, and it was a lot shorter. But then you'd have to think that the 10-meter run was at the Olympics, right? And anybody who's at the Olympics, anybody who's, I don't know, man. I guess I can't assume anybody knows anything about track, but I feel like most people know that the 100 meters is at the Olympics, right? And it's the shortest one. Do most people know that?
Yeah, no, I think they were just thinking metric. So they were thinking meters, which I think they all were thinking that.
Yeah,
and they were just like, what? I think they were thinking, what's the marquee event in meters? I think that's what they were thinking. Not what is the one that is most associated with the mile. I think they were trying to think what's the marquee event. So they were all thinking.
Yeah, but why do they think that the 10-meter is run in why do they think that 10-meter takes place in the Olympics?
10-meter, no. The lady said 10-meter because she thought she was correcting the 10K. When she said 10-meter, her brain was thinking 10,000 meters, or 1,000 meters. That's what her brain was thinking. Her brain was thinking 10,000 meters or 1,000 meters. It wasn't thinking 10 meters. That's what I think.
So
I mean, the lady who said 500 meters at the very end, I mean, she was the most accurate. Who would have thought?
Well, because she picked something. She heard 10,000 and then she heard 10, so she's just like, "Why not 500?" Don't you lose? You lose points in Jeopardy if you get the question wrong. I don't know why they're just wildly guessing at events. I mean, the 10-meter. To think that there's a competition for the 10-meter is pretty interesting.
I don't think she was actually thinking 10 meters, man. I think her brain was thinking something different. It just came out different.
Can we get her on the pod? What was her name?
What is more ridiculous? Thinking that 10,000 meters or 10 meters is equivalent to a mile, or Britney Spears' world record 100-meter dash on a treadmill where she ran her first 5-second
5.8. Yeah.
5.8.
Yeah, I mean, 10 meters is shorter though, so I'd almost say the 10-meter is more ridiculous than Britney Spears. Somebody topped Britney Spears.
Someone topped Britney Spears. I mean, all getting lost.
You can run 10 meters in like a second. 10 meters is like a second.
Yeah. I think, we have to blame the first guy who buzzed in. He got them rolling into wild distances. If he would have gained it, I guarantee if he would have said 5K, she would have said 5 meters. 100%. She would say, 5 meters.
But that's weird, though, that a collection of 3 people don't know that 5K is more than a mile. Because I feel like if you and I right now just randomly cold called our friends who have no idea about professional track and field, but we said, what's more, a mile or a 5K? Most people would be able to say a 5K is longer.
I mean, have you seen the Office episode where they're trying to do like a 5K and they say 5,000K? Or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's because they don't. These people aren't used to doing metric math in their head, so they don't think about it. Like, I bet you those 3 people have never even. They only think miles per hour. They only know how tall they are in feet. They don't know how many kilograms they weigh. They only know how many pounds they weigh.
So you think if it was just. So you think if they phrased the question differently that they would have gotten closer? I feel like if you, man. You're putting a lot of faith in people's just allegiance to the imperial system over the metric system.
Lost in all this,
like,
is Hika Melgarouge. He was a great
Goat.
runner. Goat in the not only in the mile and the 1500, but he had a great 10-meter dash, and his 10K was just unheard of. So,
do you think that there's every night there's something like this on Jeopardy, and a different community is just astounded by how bad the answers are?
Yeah.
There's a Uzbekistan podcast, and when there's a question about Uzbekistan that nobody gets right, they spend the next day laughing about it.
Yeah, they like it's like it's like stupid where they think like Dallas, Texas is in Alaska or something like that to them.
Yeah.
Do they not know where this city is? You know. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was fun to end the podcast with that. Check out the clip.
No, yes.
Thanks, Leah and Sherrick, for tweeting it out and videotaping her daily Jeopardy watching, which is great. Yeah.
Jeopardy's a good show. I've always enjoyed it. Haven't watched it in a while, but it's a great show. FloTrack podcast at gmail.com. Thanks for listening all this week. Gordon and I will be back on Monday. We'll have a lot of stuff to recap, so I'm excited to do that. Remember, you can check out the show, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Thank you to Elon for producing. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.